Të dashur teleshikues të televizionit të shqiptarëve të Amerikës, është kënaqësi të kemi sot në studion e televizionit të shqiptarëve të Amerikës dy njerëz që kanë bërë kaq shumë për kombin shqiptar. Kryetarin e Ligës Qytetare Shqiptaro-Amerikane Gjo Dioguardi dhe bashkëshorten e tij Shirley Kloes Dioguardi, e cila është bashkëngjitur Ligës, është bërë pjesë kryesore e saj. Është kënaqësi, njëkohësisht është dhe detyrim moral për ne që të intervistojmë ata që kanë ardhur për promovimin e një libër që flet pikërisht për punën e bërë nga Liga në vitet e para, qysh nga vitet 86 deri në vitet 93, një libër që ka dhe vijimin e tij, është një përmbledhje e të gjithë veprimtarisë, është një enciklopedi e gjallë, një Wikipedia e atë dashurisë shqiptare, e krijuar nga atë dashuria e Gjo Dioguardit dhe nga aftësia intelektuale e Shirley Kloes Dioguardit. Pra, le t'i mirëpresim ata këtu në studio. Mirë se erdhe.
So nice to be here again, Raphael. Thank you for taking the time to have me and Shirley here.
It's very important because till now, Albanians, they do not have a successful lobby like Albanian American Civic League. Till now, we have a lot of success on the question of Kosovo. But the Albanian problem is not only Kosovo in the Balkans. Are other parts of our country that are still under other countries, and the role of the League is still the same. Even your age is growing, your passion, your love to resolve the Albanian questions is still active.
The question that came from the failure of World War I, when Albanians didn't have people to speak up when they should have been already having some kind of a lobby or an advocacy group. They weren't prepared. And when they started trying to solve the problem, what they did is they divided the Albanian people, the nation. So now you've got Albanian people in 5 different countries. And unfortunately, that means that they are now minorities. We hate to say that because I see them as Kumtar, one nation. And I always try to treat them that way. But it's difficult when you've been divided, because then you have local politicians, they have parties, and then you have some, responsibilities to feed your family in those countries, and you have to have some kind of a way to cooperate, and that takes the energy away from the Albanian nation. And that's been going on since the war stopped, World War I stopped. And I'm hoping that what Shirley and I have been able to show is that Albanians can act like a nation. There's no reason. We don't have to go around to say we got to change the borders. That's probably never going to happen, because it's something we'd like to think about, but there's no reason why Albanians who speak the same language, have the same history, have the same values for family, and even, though they're divided maybe by religion, they are tolerant people. The Pope said it when he went to Albania. I never believed I could see this. He used the word bubble in Italian, this bubble of tolerance that even they have intermarriage with the Muslim Albanians and the Catholics and some Orthodox. So we have demonstrated that we've carried values through today, up till today, and we have to continue that. But the good news now is that the Albanians in the last 20 years have gotten good education, maybe the last 30 years. They've gone on to get their master's degrees, gone on to have doctorate degrees, and they are in a position now to assume much more responsibility than before. Many of their parents, like mine, were not educated enough, and therefore they had to work, they had to come over here, they had to keep earning the money to keep the family going. Like me, I was born in the Bronx. I had to work in my father's food market in the Bronx with my mother, and that was the best training for me, right? To see my father operating with all kinds of people, Jewish, Italian, Irish, Black. It made me understand as a congressman that I had to serve different kinds of people if I wanted to succeed. And I found out that the Albanians needed a voice like mine. And then the Albanians found out that my father spoke Abresh, and they lobbied me day and night, calling to say, we need your help. And I didn't get there because Albanians knew me. I got there because I became the first certified public accountant ever elected to Congress, because I was in the world's largest accounting firm for 20 years. So it's a good history, but
it's a good history. Some part of that you will see documented in this book. But
and thank God I met Shota Galica here.
Okay.
Because she has a good education. She was a publisher.
Okay.
She has a master's degree, and she reads a lot. In fact, I get the papers in the morning, I give them to her. I say, if there's an important article, let me know.
Okay. Okay. Shirley, what's the role of the Albanian Civic League now, in this moment? There are some challenges. There are some challenges for Kosovo. There are some challenges for Albanians in Macedonia. There are challenges for Albanians in Montenegro that most of them live here in Michigan. And still there are other issues that the Chameria, the Albanians in South. But the most concerned situation now is the American tolerance of Serbia in the bilateral talks between Prime Minister Kurti and President of Serbia, Vučić. Why America is so appeasing Serbia?
Raphael, thank you for inviting us to speak. I have to say, I actually want to begin with the fact that we are on a we have a very positive and inspiring governance now operating in Kosovo. Joe and I and members of the board of the Albanian American Civic League stepped aside a long time ago from Kosovo because its operation, actually became corrupt. Suddenly, we have a new world with Prime Minister Kurti and President Osmani. And we have, no matter whether people agree with everything they think or not, they're an honest operation. Now, we have two factors going on. As you pointed out, why do we have a government in part that is obviously appeasing Serbia? We've seen this again and again. We see it in the European Parliament. Why is it, though, that the Civic League does what it does? We work with the key people in the Senate and House Foreign Affairs Committee, and specifically the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, run by Senator Menendez, who is incredibly intelligent and is absolutely committed to a different outcome than we're seeing now. So, for example, he has been the only member of Congress that I know of that has actually opposed the creation of the Association of Serb Municipalities. This is very unique. So you have that happening. At the same time, if you look closely at what's happening right now, even though it's a very scary moment because one gets the feeling that maybe the prime minister and the president would bow down in some way or succumb to the pressure, what we see is a different dynamic now. They're showing that they're open to every suggestion that has to be made. But look what's happening to President Vučić. He's absolutely opposing everything. So you already see, a real divide. And I think that we we'll watch and see going forward that there isn't going to be an agreement made between Serbia and Kosovo. One of the problems that we have is that there's a disparity between the Menendezes of the world, the people running the Senate and House Foreign Affairs Committee, and I'm talking now on the Democratic side in the House also, and what you see happening in our State Department. And it's been historical, and I understand why. There's always been a fear. There's always this feeling that somehow we just have to make sure that the waters are calm, right? That we aren't going to have...
That's because of the war in Ukraine?
Well, Sorry.
Sorry, interrupting.
I should say in part you're right in the following way, but it's only because that was used as an excuse by the people working in the State Department to say, oh, Kosovo, oh, Serbia, you have to resolve this right away because of Ukraine. Then they finally had to back off because it became clear that wasn't the case, although that's a separate tragedy we can talk about because I don't think that should be dealt with incrementally. I think that we really need to stand up to Russia in full force and bring an end to this. But if you go back to what's happening with the new Kosovo government, you see a different process. And one of the elements that I know Joe and I care about a great deal and the board is that we work very closely with the leadership in the Preševa Valley. And one of the strengths we have here, and I know the Kurti government already sees it, is that we have to continue to bring to international attention the disparity between how Serbs in northern Kosovo are treated with every single civil and human right that one can imagine, and then the disparity with Albanians in southern Serbia being second and third class citizens.
Very important to show that difference.
Joe, I saw a delegation from Preševa recently meeting with the League, and you discussed the problem and the issues that they have. It was one of the members of parliament in Serbian parliament from Preševa present with you. One. Well, there is only one.
Kamberi, I think.
Yeah, and he is very strong in his opinion and very patriotic.
And he has a lot of trust in me and Shirley. He knows
that's a good thing to know.
Right.
So you raise the issue of the Kosovars, the situation of people in Kosovo at that time when nobody in the US thought about that. There is an opportunity now in Preševa, as you said, to put the equality. Where is the equality? Where is the equality of treating minorities, people? These are Albanian in Serbia, these are Serbs in Kosovo. We want the same treatment. Is this opinion of League? Yes, I think.
We have led the way for that to the point where we have now the most powerful man in the U.S. Senate for Foreign Affairs thinking that way. And he sees that Shirley and I are very logical to compare how Albanians are treated in one area, well, in Serbia, Preševa, that's where it is, and versus how we treat the Serbs in northern Kosovo. They have pretty much everything that they want. But that's not enough for Mr. Vučić. Vučić was trained by Milosevic. They come out of the 1937 memo that was written by the professor, Tribulovic. And we even forced him to come to the first meeting in Congress with Lantos. So we know that the Serbs have every idea that they have to dominate this area. And we have to be as strong with our words and with our contacts in Washington as they think they are. And they are not. And they are lying. Every time you get them to put something where we have to see it on paper, it's a lie. And we have to call them liars, like we did Milosevic.
Okay, can be one argument the rights of the Albanian people in Lugina, in Preševa, of the bilateral meetings between Kurti and President Vučić should be an added article.
Well, I think it's going to happen anyway, because I don't know whether you've seen this, but Aleksandar Vučić is now trying to block the running of 4 mayors in northern Kosovo altogether, unless first Kurti comes forward and first acknowledges the Association of Serb Municipalities.
So he put as a condition, now it's the time to rise this question, and League is doing the right thing.
Yeah, but we're not going to succumb to that kind of intimidation. You know,
Okay.
he can't let him set the agenda for this.
Okay, I know, surely.
But he's going to fail. That's the whole point, because he's showing once again to the international community that he doesn't care about resolving the Kosovo-Serbia conflict, that he isn't prepared to make sure that the people in the Preševa Valley, for example, and the people in northern Kosovo have the same rights and freedoms. So he's once again being exposed. And I think that's why, we're on a different path now, I think, certainly with the Senate and House Foreign Affairs Committee, and I think also with parts of the European Parliament as well. In other words, it cannot succeed in its current form. There is going to have to be a whole new approach to resolving the conflict between...
All of us want a conflict to be resolved.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right. It's for the good of the people there, for the good of the Albanians, for the good of the region. But should be resolved in the right way.
It's got to be fair.
Yes. Fair.
And it's not fair when it comes to the Serbs. They are thinking that they control everything.
How can it be fair?
Well, the way it has to be fair is that you can't have a separate association of Serb municipalities evolving in a way in which the country is carved up. That's actually what Vučić and the Serbian parliament,
You'll have another Srpska,
Yeah.
and it will go nowhere.
Needs to be avoided. Even Europeans say, no, we don't want to avoid that. It's not the same. Germ is there.
Yeah, and Dodic and Vučić
The
do a lot of
conditions
talking
have to be there.
together.
We also have another issue that's unresolved and needs to be resolved in the process. And that is, we have 5 countries, as you know, that when Kosovo was recognized as independent in 2008, 5 countries.
Like Spain, Slovakia,
European
Greece,
Union.
Cyprus, yes.
and
Romania.
Romania.
Yeah. Have said no, but there is now a real effort being made, and we happen to know it's even happening within Senator Menendez's operation to make a change, a real change. And we think it can happen initially with Greece because he has had strong connections to them, historically, but his reach is just about everywhere. The depth of his knowledge.
I overheard about Greece recognizing Kosovo and so on. Because Greece doesn't have that, like Spain has the Basque questions or Romania, the Hungarian, but that are not related to the status of Kosovo.
But it's also been established that the claims of the other nations that somehow they're going to be under threat is absolutely not the case. So it's going to be important, though, because Kosovo needs to be able to enter every aspect of the European world in a way that right now it cannot. It should be in the European Parliament, just as one example. So this is the other element.
And the United Nations.
That has to be in the United Nations. And by the way, thanks for mentioning that, Joe, because already Vučić has come out and said, oh, no.
No, he's declared.
No, we don't want Kosovo being part of the United Nations. Once again, coming up against even the,
what they accepted.
Supposedly, yes, accepted in the Ohrid Agreement.
So I have a question. This gives me the idea of the meeting in Rambouillet. That Kosovo accepts, Serbs do not accept, then NATO interfere. It's not that situation, but diplomatically, it's the same situation.
And you know your history because Albanians got lucky that Milosevic decided not to agree.
Yes.
Because it would have been, I've always said this, a death warrant for Kosovo. You would never have Kosovo if we had that.
Agree, no.
No. So it made it a little tougher to get going, to get Kosovo. And that's what we have to remember. We can't look for fast solutions that go nowhere. Mm-hmm. We have to make sure that this thing is resolved, not only in a fair way, but in a secure way, so that all people are treated equally and with security.
So I think it's important to recognize, too, and we hope others will begin to recognize the degree to which Russia and China are trying to work their way into the region.
Yes.
And this should be of enormous concern, not only with the United States government, but with the European Parliament and European Commission. And I think that not enough members on either side of the Atlantic are understanding that a lot is at stake here, a lot. So this is what you see, by the way, in some of the other Albanian lands that are not, that are, we even have to talk about, what is the size of the Albanian population right now, for example, in Montenegro. Look at the number of Albanians who have been leaving their original lands. Look at divisions within Albanian regions, whether it's Macedonia, whether it's Montenegro, the number of political parties, although I was happy to see that the new prime minister of Montenegro has come out this week and said, Serbia, you need to recognize Kosovo's independence right now. Now that is spectacular.
Yeah, because we're accusing him is pro-Serb because of situation in Montenegro and so on.
But the better example is Macedonia. We've worked so hard. I was the first one to bring Lantos to Macedonia. I was the first one, as you know, Milosevic prevented me when I brought Lantos to Kosovo. He said I was persona non grata, and I had to start working more in Macedonia and Montenegro. And I even attended the meetings to get the census in Macedonia because I knew the people that were there in charge, they always lied about how many Albanians were there. But it's a difficult thing when you have to be part of another country and they have their own rules. But Albanians have to know that we now have a situation where they can stand up and be counted. They've done so many good things for their families and so many good things to get educating their kids and other family members, so that we have now the opportunity to do something bigger. And we have to act like a nation.
Okay. That's for Albanians there. Now, for the job of the League, you have always, your lobbying was bipartisan.
Always.
Always. It is now.
Yes and no, and I'll explain why. And
that's why.
That is that I think everyone knows the Republican world has dramatically changed when President Donald Trump became, then president, now ex-president, reshaped the Republican world to a great extent. So what we don't see now are the number of, a lot of wonderful Republicans, by the way, but the number has shrunk in terms of anyone willing
to be
bipartisan or to take on something, of extraordinary importance, because they themselves are finding themselves in a very difficult time. So I think we have to see what happens in the next election. But right now, it just happens to be that it's the Democrats, first of all, they lead in the Senate and they run the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And in the House now, we have ranking membership, but you still have, and that's Congressman Gregory Meeks is now the ranking member because the Republicans won this go around. That will probably change, but this is where you see the real commitment to these issues and knowledge. So Gregory Meeks, for example, has a history going back several years. We both testified, Joe and I, about 6 times.
We have a good relationship with him.
And he was, among those.
One of the things that I've continued to do is stay very active with the Black American community. I found out as a congressman that not one African American in 2 world wars got our nation's highest award. And I went to work on that. And over 30 years, I managed to help them get 9 medals. I'm working on number 10. So I have big respect with the Black American community. I have big respect with the Jewish community because of Lantos and bringing him there and discovering the story of the rescue. And I think that helps when we deal with other people, that they know that I'm there to try to bring fairness for all people. And I'm going to continue to do that with Shirley.
What is the main concentration of the work of the League in lobbying in Congress nowadays?
It's still very much centered on the struggle between Serbs and the Kosovo government to finally get the kind of reconciliation that Albanians deserve and that needs to happen for the whole region to go forth. So we're spending our time focusing on that. As we've talked about this extensively today, what we do with members and what we do with everyone concerned with the issue matters. We have to keep this elevated in the eyes of the world. Otherwise, we're not going to see the kind of lasting results we want.
Because they consider issue just resolve the small issues. These small issues are all over the place.
And the Albanian dimension of the Balkan conflict is never going to be really revealed until we finally have this resolved. And we're moving towards a point where we're hoping, Joe and I, and, think about the number of years we've been working on this, and he began before we got married. We need to see final results. It's absolutely critical. So, and once you do see that result, you're going to see some very positive impacts potentially on other related parts of the Albanian lands, which are,
Raphael, Shirley and I are bold. We do not sit back and watch what's happening. We make the things happen. And without that, Albanians could disappear, because you have to be assertive. And we've shown over the years that that's who we are. And we're not going to sit back and watch the Albanian people be emasculated, be treated unfairly, so that now you've got Vucic reaching out with China and with Putin and trying to now become his own empire in the Balkans. That's not going to happen. As long as Shirley and I are there, that will not happen.
Well, and the Civic League across the board.
Do you think that the support of the Albanian community for lobbying for Albanians per resolve of the Albanian question in the Balkans is faded?
When you have such a division of people into 5 or 6 countries, it's very difficult today in this world to find a good job, to make sure your kids get a good education. So Albanians are under big pressure to keep their families, doing well. And at the same time, they have got to try to understand what a lobby is. Because without having educated people like me and Shirley, experienced now many years just on the Albanian issues, and we have not abandoned the others. We try to stay as active as we can with the Greek issues, with the Black issues, with the Jewish issues, but we are focused on the Albanian people because they need us. They're too divided. When you have this kind of division, it's very difficult for you to make a clear case, especially when the other side is known to lie.
Well, when you say divided,
there's another dimension to this that I want to add, and that is that maybe when you say, how is the Albanian American community, responding, part of it is sometimes the lack of recognition that Joe DioGuardi, as a former member of Congress, has almost the same rights and privileges as an existing member, right? And then, of course, you bring together, the work that we've done over many years. Going forward, it's a different time. Everyone was united in the Albanian American community when it was about getting Kosovo's independence and getting it...
And the war.
And ending the war. And once that happened, though, unfortunately, the unity that was there began to fall apart in many different directions, divided by, again, country of origin, city of origin, personal, yes, whatever. And so you still see that reality and a lack of understanding that you have to go the long haul and you have to do it within the House and Senate Foreign Relations Committees. That's how it works.
Yeah, you show that it works.
So the people,
that's the method.
Right, the people that work with the Civic League and support it have that understanding.
We did it with Senator Biden. We got Dole involved in this issue. Very early on, I did the first resolution, 1986, and I was smart enough to say, now I met Bob Dole, can I go to him and maybe get him to sign it. So now we have House and Senate. And I did it. So I was bold. I mean, I had no seniority. I'm a junior member of the minority party. Democrats controlled everything. But that's the way I was raised by my parents. If something's unfair, you have to speak up. And we're going to continue to do that for the Albanian people.
The time is tiring, so I thank you very much for your
Thank you
Thank you.
presence
for not
here.
forgetting us.
Oh, it was a pleasure. I'll take the privilege to interview you via Skype sometimes for certain issues. And I will do it.
Please do.
I told Maras that I will call you. Okay.
We would love that.
I express my highest appreciation for your work,
Thank you.
for your job, for what you have done to my country, to my nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Hvala vam Menderiću.
Ishte kënaqësi, that was a pleasure.